Chapter 21, 22. This is our final unit. Again, full transcripts are available on the website. Hop over, sign up for monthly updates. Here we go. Where are we in the book? Well, not counting the epilogue, this is the end. But it's not the end in the sense that everything stops here. On the contrary, this part of the book describes a continuation, eternity. It describes what comes after the end, after God has accomplished His purpose and fully established, made real, His ideas for human life and for creation. Different from previous sections, this one does not divide into 7 scenes. It shows no clear subdivisions. It seems fitting that this final, ongoing, eternal state is not divided in any way. In this section, God's ultimate purpose is presented in the form of a bride and a city. Why these two symbols? Because we are not literally dealing with the bride or with the city. Well, bride, marriage, represents perfect union, and here sums up the quality of the relationship between God and His people. And city stands for community. In addition, cities in the ancient world frequently represented kingdoms. Kingdoms and empires were not based on or centered around a country like today. It was the Roman Empire, not the Italian Empire, and it was the Babylonian Empire. And Israel too could be summed up in its capital city, Jerusalem, or as Zion. In other words, the use of city as a symbol has a double significance. First, the city represents a kingdom, God's kingdom in this case, and shows that the rule and government over all creation have been given to God's people, as promised in Daniel 7 verse 27. And the kingdom and the dominion and the greatness of the kingdoms under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High. And second, because it is a city, a place where people live together, it also stands for human community and society made perfect, a perfect civilization, and the very opposite of Babylon. We should recognize that the description of this city is highly symbolic. This is not a photographic representation put into words. Far from it. And the reason is simple. No eye has seen, no human mind imagined what God has prepared for those who love Him. The fullness of what God has in mind cannot be grasped in human words. It can only be expressed in symbolic language, using picture and metaphors. An important caution: simply because something is symbolic does not mean that it is less real. In fact, it may be the opposite. Sometimes students ask me about statements in Scripture, whether we should interpret this or that literally, or whether it is merely symbolic. Well, we should really leave out that qualifier. If something is symbolic, it is symbolic. It is not merely symbolic. It still refers to something very real, just in a non-straightforward and non-literal way. For instance, take the cross. It's a simple shape, not greatly significant as a mere form, and as such it represents the sacrificial death of Jesus by means of gruesome execution on our behalf. Now, what's more real and important, the form of the cross or Christ's substitutionary death? The visible and tangible symbol or the invisible reality it points to? It is similar with the city in Revelation 21. Its description is highly symbolic, including its identification as a city, but it is nevertheless a truthful portrayal of the future state of the community of God's people and of life in the age to come. Remember the promises at the end of each letter, at the beginning of the book. This is our reward. This is what God promises to all who persevere and conquer. Well, it's a symbol, all right, this city, but it's not merely a symbol. In 21 verse 10, it is significant that John is taken to a great high mountain. In the ancient world, it was not uncommon for a nation to believe that its gods lived on top of a certain mountain. The Greeks, for instance, had Mount Olympus. Sometimes we find to believe that there was a high mountain at the center of the earth from which the world had emerged, or that upheld earth and sky. The Bible does not share that belief, but it does raise a counterclaim. Already in the Old Testament, Isaiah 2, there we read that the location of God's temple, the one place of true worship of the only true God, will in the end become that highest mountain. This photo, by the way, shows Mount Everest, presently the highest mountain on earth. And so, for that reason, John is taken to a high mountain to see the city associated with that mountain. Incidentally, this also parallels Ezekiel 40, Ezekiel's temple vision, and Daniel 2, the stone that overthrows the statue representing 4 kingdoms of this world grows into a mountain that fills the whole earth. It is also significant that the city comes down out of heaven from God. This is not a mere earthly reality or community. It cannot proceed from, much less be brought forth by humanity or the earthly city Jerusalem. Earthly Jerusalem was merely a type of a true and heavenly reality. And when dealing with types, elements that prophetically foreshadow New Testament realities, it is appropriate to refer to them as merely types. The earthly city Jerusalem in the Old Testament points forward to this city from heaven. So we have a great high mountain, a city coming down out of heaven, and that city has 12 gates, named after the 12 tribes of Israel, and the walls of the city have 12 foundations, named after the 12 apostles. It is, in other words, the one city and community of both the Old and New Testament people of God. One city, one people. Each foundation is adorned with its own kind of precious stone. Now here's something interesting. The list in verses 19 and 20 reflects the precious stones that were set on the breastplate of the high priest. This underlines that the city is a priestly community, serving and worshipping God and representing Him to creation. We are also told the measurements of the city. Quote, "The city lies 4 square, its length the same as its width, and he measured the city with his rod 12,000 stadia. Its length and width and height are equal. He also measured its wall 144 cubits by human measurement, which is also an angel's measurement. The city is 12,000 stadia in every direction, including height, and the wall around it is 144 cubits. 1 cubit is approximately 45 centimeters, so taken literally, this wall would be 65 meters high. Well, that is high for a wall, but it's dwarfed by the height of the city. 1 stadion is 180 meters or 607 feet. This makes for 2,220 kilometers or almost 1,400 miles. Taken literally, this would make for a city of enormous size. Especially the height is problematic. This takes us way beyond Earth's atmosphere. The city sticks out into space. 65 meters, 2,220 kilometers. No doubt all of this is not meant to be taken literally. It does not provide us with exact information to draw up a plan of this city of the future. We're not dealing with science fiction, it's an apocalyptic revelation. 144 equals 12 times 12. The city is 12,000 stadia wide, broad and high. Together with the 12 gates and the 12 foundations, it has the number 12, the number of God's people, written all over it. We have seen the number 12,000 earlier in the book. It was the number for each tribe in the census in chapter 7, leading to a total of 144,000. Clearly, this city symbolically represents the people of God in its entirety. There's even more to this. John started off by describing the form of the city as square in verse 16. The city lies foursquare, its length the same as its width, 12,000 stadia. Now here's what the Greek historian Herodotus wrote about Babylon in the year 440 BC. Quote, "It lies in a great plain and is in shape a square, each side 15 miles, literally it reads 120 stadia, in length, thus 60 miles make the complete circuit of the city. Such is the size of the city of Babylon, and it was planned like no other city of which we know." Not only does this show God's city as far, far greater than Babylon, it also shows his city as the true city, not of but for this world, the perfect and holy realization of Babylon's aspirations and those of all human civilization, but in submission to God, not in human autonomy. Also of interest is the shape of the city. It's described as a perfect cube, even if of humongous size. Well, where does that come from? There's one place in the Bible where we also read about a space that has the form of a cube. It's the Holy of Holies in the Temple of Solomon. 1 Kings 6 verse 20. The inner sanctuary was 20 cubits long, 20 cubits wide and 20 cubits high, and he overlaid it with pure gold. No wonder there's no temple in the city. The whole city is itself the temple, or rather the Holy of Holies, the very place of God's presence. And since God's presence fills the Holy of Holies as well as the city, it can also be said that God himself is its temple, as is explicitly stated in 21 verse 22. Various qualities are ascribed to this city. Two groups of characteristics in particular dominate the section. First, there's glory, light, radiance, and brightness. Second, terms associated with purity and clarity, including glass and crystal. Even the gold of the city is transparent. In addition, there are those features that speak of unimaginable value, such as precious stones and gold. Taken together, it speaks of unbelievable beauty, of God's presence. It's after all his glory and his light that illuminates the city, and of purity and holiness. It is after all the bride made perfect. There are two more elements of the city that I want to briefly address. They are the river of the water of life, flowing from the throne, and the tree of life growing there. Well, literally it reads in the middle of the street and of the river, from here and from there, that is on both sides, the wood of life. It's a forest rather than a single tree. A similar scene of life-giving water and trees is described in Ezekiel 47 and must have inspired John's vision at this point. Both elements, river and tree of life, take us back to the very beginning of the Bible, to the Garden of Eden in Genesis 2. This is its counterpart. The crisis that developed in Genesis 3 has been resolved. Everything sinful and evil and corrupt has been transformed or removed. Creation has been restored to its original harmony and peace, or shalom, and more. The story that begins in a garden ends in a city that is at the same time also a garden. The photo here shows the hospital in Darmstadt, Germany, designed by the Austrian architect Hundertwasser. city and garden can go together. The city is not necessarily a place of darkness and evil. It can be redeemed and become a place of healing. Genesis 3 tells us how paradise was lost. Revelation 22 shows us that paradise has been restored. And in this restored Garden of Eden, there is no serpent. God once again dwells with humans, as in the beginning, except that it is now a huge community, a multitude no one can number, not just two individuals, and a glorified creation, transformed to match and reflect God's eternal glory forever. And with that, we have come to the end of the vision and the end of this series of lectures on the book of Revelation. The book finishes with additional affirmations and warnings that I will not further discuss. I don't think they're very difficult, except to point out that there is an invitation as well. The Spirit and the bride say, "Come." And let the one who hears say, "Come." And let the one who is thirsty come. Let the one who desires take the water of life without price. Come, take. The life of the future can already be enjoyed in the present. So what else are we to take away from all this? Well, many things, no doubt, but the book's main aim is to provide hope and to empower in order to inspire commitment and empower God's people for perseverance, especially those who will face the threat of martyrdom, but also all the others. And I hope it has this effect on you. But I believe the book also wants to inspire us to already live the qualities of the future reality in the present. Purity, transparency, holiness, union with God and with others, love, beauty, radiance. Because this reality is not limited to the future. In some ways, it's also already present. Because as believers, we are the people of this city, already in possession of our heavenly citizenship. So Paul in Philippians 3 verse 20. In our communities on earth, that is in the church, the light of this heavenly and future community should already be shining through. As Jesus put it in Matthew 5, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven." Glory to God.